Hello and welcome to Football Daily, where today we're looking at some of the most misguided last-minute transfers in football. 10. Kim Kallstrom. Yes, Arsenal fans, once again we start at the Emirates, where Swedish midfielder Kallstrom arrived in January 2014 on loan from Spartak Moscow. Arsene Wenger was desperate for midfield reinforcements, but Kallstrom had a broken vertebra when he signed, ruling him out for nearly 2 months. In the end, the Swede played just 4 times in his half-season with the Gunners, but he did make one important contribution in the FA Cup semi-final against Wigan. Known for his exceptional dead ball ability, Kallstrom came on in extra time and scored a shootout penalty, taking Arsenal to the final where they ended a 9-year wait for silverware. He now plays in Zurich with Grasshopper. 9. Shefki Kuki. In January 2011, Newcastle unexpectedly found themselves needing to replace Andy Carroll, more of him later, and moved for Finnish forward Shefki Kuki, who was already 34 and failing to set the world alight at Swansea. Kuki was a free agent, but somehow still looked like bad business, making just 6 substitute appearances for the Toon over the rest of the season, and finding himself once again without a club by May. He promptly dropped down to League One, joining Oldham Athletic, where he scored 16 in 49 games, before switching to Hibernian when the Latics could no longer afford his wages. After 14 games without a goal, he left the club, with the BBC christening him one of the worst signings of the year in Scotland. Jesus. 8. Andy Carroll. Once again, Andy Carroll shuffles onto one of our lists. Highly rated at Newcastle, he became Liverpool's record signing and the most expensive English player in history when the Reds spunked €41 million on the 22-year-old on deadline day in January 2011. Arriving alongside Luis Suarez, the scale of Carroll's underperformance was woefully obvious, as the Geordie scored just 11 times in the course of his 58 games for Liverpool. He was offloaded to free-spending West Ham, but injuries prevented him from getting into double figures in any of his 4 seasons in London. A cart horse who never quite made it to the glue factory, Carroll returns every season, promising to finally make good on his potential. But at 27 years old, time is running out. 7. Benny McCarthy. South African striker Benny McCarthy was a consistent scorer for Porto, Ajax and Blackburn when he signed for West Ham in 2010's winter window. 32 at the time, McCarthy was handed a 2.5-year deal worth a reported $50k a week. But a year later he had played just over 300 minutes for the club and failed to score a goal, leading the Irons to cut him from their 25-man squad for the rest of the campaign. They were so desperate to rid themselves of the forward that they ended up paying him €1.7 million to cancel his contract that April. He returned to his native South Africa with the Orlando Pirates, where he won the domestic title, adding to his 3 league wins in the Netherlands and Portugal. 6. Benjani Waruwari. Man City might be able to compete for the best players in the world now, but back in 2008 the club was shopping in the bargain bin for a striker, coming up with Zimbabwean Benjani for €5 million from Portsmouth. Pompey replaced him with Jermaine Defoe, but the citizens thought they had the better of the deal when Benjani scored the winner against Man United on his debut. Things got rapidly worse though, as he ended up making just 31 appearances in 3 years in Manchester, and it later transpired that the deal had almost not gone through in the first place. After a fee had been agreed, Benjani went to the airport but fell asleep and missed his flight. Meanwhile, City tried to back out of the deal over fitness concerns, and a spokesperson even claimed that the move had fallen through. In the end, the Premier League publicly revealed that the paperwork had arrived in time, giving City the dubious talents of Benjani. 5. Christopher Samba. A well-respected Premier League defender with Blackburn Rovers, Congolese centre-back Christopher Samba left England for Ansi Makashkala in 2012. The Russian team had invested enormous sums in acquiring Samuel Eto'o and the great Roberto Carlos, and they wanted Samba to shore up their backline. But QPR, struggling against relegation, went to Russia with empty heads and full wallets in January 2013, paying €15 million for Samba, who failed to save them from the drop. Bizarrely, Anzi returned for the player, bringing him back after 7 months away, again for €15 million. Just 1 month later, they sold Samba on to Dinamo Moscow, where he struggled for fitness. His contract expired in 2016, and he's now a free agent, at least until QPR find out. 4. Konstantinos Mitroglou. The attention brought by a club record signing is always a risk, but Fulham seemed to have a sure thing when they picked up Konstantinos Mitroglou for €15 million in 2014. The Greek striker had scored 41 goals in 92 league games for Olympiacos, but a combination of fitness problems limited him to just 3 appearances for the Cottagers. Relegation inevitably followed, and Mitroglou returned to Olympiacos, with Fulham needing to remove his wages from their books. He netted another 19 in 33 games in Athens, but it was a shock when Portuguese giants Benfica took a punt on him in a temporary deal in 2015. Forming a deadly partnership with Jonas, Mitroglou scored 20 in 32 as Benfica raced to a domestic double, and the story finally found a happy ending as the Eagles made the move permanent for €7 million. 3. Afonso Alves. It seems insane that Middlesbrough were able to spend €20 million on a striker way back in 2008. But given Afonso Alves' filthy record with Heerenveen, it's not surprising that they pushed the boat out. The Brazilian had scored 48 goals in 48 games in the Netherlands and joined Borough in the winter window. He started brightly, managing 6 strikes in 11 matches, including a hat-trick in an 8-1 win over Manchester City. But the next year saw a massive fall-off, with 31 appearances yielding just 4 goals. Desperate to recoup some cash, Borough enticed Al Sadd into paying €12 million, and Alves remained in Qatar until his retirement in 2015, rediscovering his scoring touch, though that's perhaps unsurprising given the quality of his competition. 2. André Santos. We told you this wouldn't be fun, Arsenal fans. In 2011, the departures of Nasri, Clichy and Fabregas sparked a mad last-minute trolley dash, with Wenger picking up Yossi Benayoun on loan, Per Mertesacker, Mikel Arteta and left-back André Santos in the dying hours of the window. Santos was a relentless nightmare, routinely leaving his defensive post to wander up pitch. That approach brought him crucial goals against Chelsea and West Brom, but gave him a reputation as a selfish idiot, and his half-time shirt swap with Robin van Persie made him even less popular. And after returning to Brazil, things got worse for Santos, as his performance in Flamengo's 4-0 defeat by Internacional led a fan to attack the player. He ended up in hospital before leaving for India, Switzerland and Turkey. 1. Radamel Falcao. Manchester United looked to have the strongest forward line in the Premier League back in 2014 when they added Radamel Falcao to Rooney and Van Persie on transfer deadline day. The Colombian was recovering from an ACL injury, but United paid €8 million to loan him, with an option to buy set at €55 million. That attacking trio cost United nearly €4 million a month in wages, and Falcao was a total catastrophe, scoring just 4 times in 29 games. He ended the year playing with the reserves, but incredibly Chelsea failed to learn from Van Gaal's mistake, putting in their own loan offer. This time, the option to buy was set at €50 million, and Falcao spent most of the year injured as Jose Mourinho crashed and burned, eventually being dropped from the Champions League squad in favour of Alexander Pato. The Duck could not do any better than the Tiger, and Chelsea finished 10th.
So that was our top 10 of the worst panic buys in football, but who's going to be on that list this summer? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out our 11 of the most horrendous injuries in football. Ouch! And as always guys, please do like and subscribe.